What's going on? My name is Matt Parker, and today it's my absolute pleasure to be checking out the new Sterling by Music Man Bongo 4-string bass. But as always, before we get started, please remember to like and subscribe, as it really helps me grow this YouTube channel. Right, let's get back down to the video. So although it's been a staple of the Ernie Ball Music Man lineup for over a decade now, the Bongo has finally made it to Sterling, and I for one am super excited about this release. Now, I know it can be a bit divisive, the Bongo. The shape is a bit out there, but I actually really love these. I've had a Ernie Ball Music Man Bongo before, and it plays and sounds great, and I really think they're kind of an underrated bass in the Music Man lineup. In fact, for me, apart from vintage Stingrays, the Bongo is actually my favorite Music Man model. I love the full fat preamp, and I really like the way that they tend to do like quirky finishes and stuff. I just think it's a really cool kind of like modern bass. It's not just a formula P or J. So the new Sterling version comes in two finishes, Stealth Black and a really nice satin finest purple, which you can see here. And this is my favorite of the two. I love purple basses anyway, but this is just a stunning finish. It looks really luscious, really deep, and yeah, super cool. You can see as well that Sterling have mated this to a black hardware package. So you can see you've got the 4 control knobs, the proper Sterling bridge with like kind of the larger anchor bolts here as well, which is a nice touch. Sometimes on Sterling basses you get the kind of cheaper, less cool bridge. It's not as good in my opinion, but this is the proper one. It's a bit weightier, it's kind of a bit more solid. But there are some issues which we'll get down to later with this bridge. And then looking at the pickups, you can see you've got these two massive Music Man humbuckers with these huge exposed pole pieces, very in keeping with what we'd expect from a Music Man or Sterling style instrument. And these are ceramic as well, so they're super bright, super punchy, everything we'd come to expect from a bongo bass. Now, the body itself is Indonesian mahogany, which I don't think I've come across before. I was expecting it to be a bit heavy, but actually it's really, really lightweight, which means it's going to sit really nicely on the knee or on a strap. However, because it's so lightweight and because you've got very big headstock, you do get a bit of neck dive. So it's something to be considerate of. If you're going to be playing this on a strap, it's probably a good idea to get kind of a wider suede strap so you can help with any neck dive. But that aside, it actually plays really nicely. And because of these really contoured body shapes and curves, it sits really nicely up against the body and allows you to get a really nice grip on the instrument. So taking a look at the headstock, we see got this really nice matching finish headstock, and it's got this really nice chamfered edge here. I am a huge fan of the Bongo aesthetic. As I said, I know it can be a bit hit or miss for some people, but I really like it, and I really like the headstock on this. And as we'd come to expect from a Music Man or a Sterling again, it's got a 3+1 headstock design. And this was originally done to help with balance, apparently. I can't say it makes a huge difference personally, but I do like it, and I think it's kind of a staple of this style of instrument. And we can also see again, Sterling have included this black hardware package. Now moving down to the nut, it's got 41mm nut width. So this is kind of a bit bigger than we'd expect from maybe something like a jazz bass, for example, but a bit smaller than a typical Music Man. So it kind of puts it somewhere in between the middle. And while we're talking about the neck, the rosewood fingerboard is actually a 12-inch radius. So it's a bit flatter than we might expect from something kind of like a bit more traditional feeling, and mated to that kind of shallower neck profile, it means it's a super fast playing neck. Now on my Ernie Ball Music Man Bongo, I seem to recall the neck being a little bit chunkier than it is on this, and it was also a painted finish. This one feels a lot shallower front to back, and the nut width potentially feels a little bit narrower. As I said, this is 41mm nut width. But because it is a shallow profile, it's a really fast neck. And working our way down the board, we've got a really nice slab of rosewood mated to 24 frets, which gives us the full 2-octave run per string. Now, taking a look at the inlays, we can see you've got these perloid dot markers. Now, on a full fat Ernie Ball Music Man Bongo, you will get these kind of like crescent half moon inlays, which I think are really nice. It's a little bit of a shame they didn't include that, but I can obviously see why from kind of cost cutting exercise, they're not going to give all the features of a full fat one to the import range. And taking a look at the bottom of the neck, we can see it's got my old friend, the heel wheel truss rod adjuster. I am so glad they've included this. It's a great feature, and I honestly wish more people do it. It makes truss rod and relief adjustment so much easier. So spinning the neck over, as I've already mentioned, we've got a 3+1 headstock design. You can see it's got these open geared black machine heads. In my experience, they're okay. Sterling in the past have been kind of slated somewhat for stuff like on the Ray 34, the machine head's not quite being up to par, and I feel like these are probably the same in all honesty. And the machine heads on this one hold tune okay, but when you are tuning, I find that there's a little bit of hesitancy or slop before it engages properly, which makes fine tuning a little bit more difficult. This is one of the things that I wish they were kind of changing at this price point. We'll talk about this later, but yeah, the machine heads probably could be a bit better at this price point. Even down the neck, you can see this got absolutely stunning roasted maple neck. Now this is a satin finish, feels super fast, much quicker than the painted neck I had on my Ernie Ball Music Man Bongo. Taking a look at the heel, we can see we've got this 5-bolt kind of curved neck heel. I am not massively bothered about neck plates. I find they can kind of snag and get in the way. This one's quite comfy. This cutaway is absolutely stunning, but they probably could have recessed it at this point. I'm not really sure why they didn't. People seem to be going to recess bolts these days, and I honestly prefer it. But you know, it is what it is. I kind of guess it's just a classic feature of Music Man. Now, looking at the electronics properly, we can see we've got a master volume, a pickup blend, so we can obviously have both neck or bridge, and then we've got a 2-band EQ with cut or boost functionality. Now, a lot of the time I don't really care for active basses, but the 4-band preamp in the Bongo is probably the best one I've ever played, and I really feel like they kind of missed a trick by not including that on this particular Bongo. It gives you a really good approximation of a Bongo, but you kind of are missing that last 15 or 20% for me, which is really the secret sauce with these. I totally get it from a cost saving point of view, but I really would have liked to see the 4-band on there because I think that helps differentiate this model from other Sterling instruments in their lineup. So there's a very quick overview of the Sterling Bongo 4. Let's get down to a couple of tones. Now, in terms of tones, I just threw a few together. It's stuff that I've enjoyed playing while I've had this bass. Now, there's some pros and cons to this bass, so we're going to get into that now. Starting with the pros, it's super, super lightweight. This bass comes in at £8, which is really all-day comfy, and it just feels great on a strap. It feels great on the knee. You're not going to get any kind of fatigue, and yeah, it's just super lightweight, super ergonomic body, and I think it's really cool. The second thing that I really like about this bass is the neck. It feels absolutely amazing. The fretwork is impeccable. I've managed to get the action right down on this. Super easy to adjust the relief if that's something you need to do. And it plays and feels great. I also like that they've included a rosewood fingerboard at this price point. I think it's a nice touch, and more manufacturers should still be doing that. And I think that the finish looks really cool as well. I think it's a really nice premium looking finish, and yeah, super cool in my opinion. Now, as much as I really like this instrument, there are some niggles I need to address. Now, I always try and be as unbiased as possible when I'm doing any videos. And in this case, I haven't been sent this bass. There's no paid content going out. It's simply I've managed to get my hands on one and I'm doing a review. So I'm going to be super, super transparent. And again, there are some issues I wanted to address when talking about this bass. The first issue, while it's not a huge deal breaker, is just something a bit annoying at this price point. At the time of making this video, the base prices kind of fluctuate a little bit, but I can see Andertons have them for $7.99 and everyone else has them at $8.99. So between £800 and £900 really in the UK. And for that price, you should be getting a nut which has been cut properly. This particular example, the strings are sitting too low in the nut and it's just been cut a bit rough. And honestly, at this price point, I'd expect a bit better. I've seen better nuts on Harley Bentons and like cheaper Squires, and frankly, they could do a better job. So sorry, Sterling, your nut needs some work. Second issue, as mentioned, is these machine heads. They're just not very high quality feeling. Again, they're a bit loose, a bit sloppy. And again, at this price point, although it's not the most expensive instrument in the world, you should be getting high quality hardware for around £900. My next criticism is the preamp. I don't find it particularly good on its cut functionality. I don't hear it making a huge difference. Even rolling both back, you still get a very zingy feel. You don't get a lot of scoop. You do get a lot of functionality when you're boosting it, but for me, it just isn't as expressive as I would like. It feels a little bit kind of wooden sounding. There's not a ton of stuff going on, in my opinion, when you're cutting it, but again, you are getting a lot more output when you're boosting. And that was one other issue I really wanted to talk about. Now, when this bass arrived, the string setup was pretty good, but I like a really low action. So I decided I was going to drop the action a little bit. But these saddles are so tight up against these anchoring bolts that you can take the screws completely out and they'll just stay hovering, and you can like be pressing on them, cracking on them, and they do not move. In fact, it took me about half an hour of fiddling to get the saddles to move down to where I wanted them, even with the screws out, which is madness. It's like the barrel saddles are too wide for this area here, and I'll do some B-roll so you can see what I mean. So with the string off, you can see how tight this is. There's no screw tension there, but it's wedged against this bit here. I'm trying to move it. You can kind of pop it, but then there's no way to get it back in without... They're all so tightly packed in here with correct intonation that you can't actually adjust the saddle either up or down. You can actually see at some points that the saddles are completely hovering with the string in place, but there's no screw supporting it. Now usually I really like this bridge on the kind of higher end Sterling, but in this one it just was not good. You shouldn't have to fight a bridge on a £900 bass to actually just do a basic action adjustment. And I just think it was a bit of an oversight from Sterling to have included this without checking it properly. It just left a bad taste in my mouth when I was trying to set it up. I just found it very frustrating. So there you are, some pros, some cons. In the end, I still really like this bass. It sounds great. I think bongos sound super cool anyway. And honestly, the fit and finish is really nice in general. I think this can be an issue with higher end Sterlings in general. They kind of start to creep towards a price point where the hardware no longer matches the proposition. And I think this is something that I've heard a lot on forums and have encountered in the past. Interestingly, I didn't have any hardware issues on the cheaper Joe Dart model. I had actually picked that up expecting to encounter some and never did. So it's interesting that although that was a cheaper model, it had seemingly better feeling hardware. As I mentioned earlier, at the time of filming this, Andertons have these up for $7.99 for the 4-string, which is obviously what this is. And I think that's a pretty good price. I think, you know, with £150 worth of upgrades, maybe a new bridge, definitely some machine heads, you could have an absolutely stellar bass for under £1,000, and it offers something so unique, that body shape, this gorgeous finish. The neck's amazing, and you know, they do sound really unique within the Sterling range and just the wider active bass market in general. I think bongos offer a really kind of unique proposition. And although there are a couple of issues with this one, I still really tip my hat to Sterling for bringing one to the marketplace. I've been waiting for one of these for a really long time. I'm super glad that it's finally arrived. If you like this review, please remember to like and subscribe. I've been Matt Parker. Thank you so much for watching as always. And until next time, I'll see you soon.